and he answered his phone. And I thought, okay, nobody answers their phone. I don't answer my phone. I will call you back. Please text me. But this guy answers his phone. And so it kind of caught me off guard. I was shocked. But I started talking to him. And before we got off that phone conversation, he was faxing me a contract to write this book. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be easier than I thought. That was not accurate. That was not an accurate assessment because, of course, anything that you're putting your heart and soul into is hard work. And it was hard work. It was a year of saying, we can't go to the zoo today because Mommy has to write her book. And my kids would say, how many more chapters? How many more pages, Mommy? And so I tried to tell them how it was going to help others, so that they would understand that we're not doing this today because we're going to help people.
Your book story is absolutely amazing, particularly since I have been chatting with a lot of different authors about how they have developed their own individual publishing contracts, and yours is the best one I've heard so far. It is a different genre than a few of those, so maybe more people should get into textbook writing. But it is kind of a testament, again, to your ambition and persistence. So you had a year to write this textbook, and you mentioned that there was a lot of weekends you were spending time on this. But how did you structure your day or your week around writing this textbook? And did the publisher give you a deadline, or was that a self-imposed deadline? When we were originally setting up the contract, I, of course, said, I have everything completed and I can get it to you soon. Let's put a year on there just to make sure. And of course, things, at least for me, I always think things are going to be easier than they are. And I'm a perfectionist, so it took a lot longer than I expected. It did take the full year. We created the deadline together, and a different editor was in charge of kind of keeping in touch with me to make sure that I was on target to reach that deadline. So making sure, there was a chapter coming every month or every 2 months. And so that was helpful, but I believe that, I'm not a person that is super structured and organized. Like, I'm going to write from 9 to 11, and then from 11 to 2, I'm going to grade papers, and then from 2 to 5. That is not me at all. And I just don't work well that way. I'm more sudden bursts of creativity, and I'm taking a shower and I have an idea and I have to, jump out and write it down before I forget. So that's more of the way that I work. So structuring time to write the book was not something that was easy for me. I also felt as though, throughout all this time I was still teaching. And, through the second book that I wrote, I also had a business. So there's so many things going on. It is difficult as a writer to decide when you're going to teach. To be completely honest, with the first book, I wrote a lot in the night. So after I would put my kids to sleep, I would stay up and I would write. But when you love something and when you feel close to the purpose of what you're doing, I think that it provides you with that motivation to just do it. And were there times when I said, I don't really want to do this, but there's a deadline approaching? Sure, there were. There were times when I was like, I will clean out the junk drawer that I have not touched in 7 years just so I don't have to sit down and write right now. Like, I don't feel it. And there are times, and a trick that I tell my students that I had to follow myself a few times, I would say 5 minutes, begin it. So even if you don't want to do it, and I would say, okay, I can't write a whole chapter tonight, but I can write for 5 minutes. And then there's just some when you begin, you have this psychological investment in what you're writing, and when 5 minutes is over, you want to finish your idea and you want to continue. And then once you're invested, you usually will keep going. So I did that. I would literally delete apps off my phone, when I would begin writing, because it's so easy to begin something, and then my friends are starting the group text, or you're getting messages. And it's so easy to get diverted. So I would just completely wipe things off of my phone so I'm not tempted. And I said, no, this is what I know that I want to do. I need to do it. Not always easy, but so grateful that when you're finished, I'm so grateful that I took the time to do that, instead of all of those other things that I wanted to do at the moment.
Yeah. Well, great. And so with the last book you wrote in 2016, Success, the Ultimate Guide to College Career and Personal Excellence, could you talk a little bit about some of the, I'm going to say like the highlight pieces of that textbook that you learned while preparing it at your days at Ivy Tech that you now teach students at other universities?
Sure. Yeah. That book, again, I wrote it because it was really on my heart to help students, and it's really for anyone. In fact, I had several people go to my book signing that just read about it in the newspaper and were not students, but just said, I'd like to use this book for my book study at my work. I work at the hospital in Goshen. Could we use that for this? Because it's really not tailored for students. It's more just for anyone that wants to become a little bit better, to improve themselves. So I think one of the pieces that I feel that's important, because I know how harmful stress is for our body, is there's a chapter on stress and wellness. And to prepare for that, I took a course at the Benson Henry Mind-Body Institute with Dr. Benson, who it's named after, and Gregory Friccione, I believe is how you say that. And they let me into this course because most of them were medical doctors, but I said, no, I need this information for my students. You gotta let me in. And, I was very persistent. They did. So I took a course from them, so it would be Massachusetts General Hospital and the Benson Henry Mind-Body Institute, and just learned so much about the stress response and what that does to our bodies. When we feel psychosocial stress, I have to pay a bill, or I have homework to do, or I have to write this paper, or, something that we feel that we're not prepared to handle. That psychosocial stress affects us on a cellular level. It stresses our cells. And so, it's so harmful to us, and I don't think we realize that. I think most people think, oh, it's stress, sure, it's not great, it doesn't feel good. It's not only that it doesn't feel good, it is harming you, it's harmful. And I think that that's something that we could all just be reminded that we're in control. We get to decide what is stressful. Stress isn't the thing. And I tell that to my kids all the time. I say it's not the thing, it's how you respond or how you feel about the thing. And that's so true about so many different pieces of life. So, what you think is stressful, I might think is not stressful. I love talking in front of people. And so that's the biggest fear that there is, that so many people are afraid to talk, but it's how we view that experience that makes us stressed. So, even just, we've found that even just labeling the feeling that you're having takes the threat, or it takes your thought out of the, you kind of get this amygdala hijack, the amygdala, the part of your brain that controls the emotional response, which is usually what happens when we're hijacked by emotion. Just by naming the emotion you're feeling takes it back to our prefrontal cortex, or the rational thinking part of our brain, so that we can kind of think more logically about the situation and what it is. So even just saying, I'm feeling really overwhelmed, labeling your feeling, can help you bring yourself back to a place where you can better handle the stressor of the situation.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I find that, it doesn't matter if I'm teaching first year students at Ivy Tech, if I'm teaching at Notre Dame, if I'm teaching at Andrews, that's something that stresses what you see it everywhere. And people talk about it like it's a joke, and we're all guilty of it. Oh, I have so much to do, and I have 5 papers, and I had 0 sleep, and, everyone tries to one up each other on who's the most stressed. But the prize that you're going to get is your health is going to be hindered. So I think that that was one thing that I really loved learning about, and it's helped me as a person control my own stress response and being able to fight that with a relaxation response.
Mm-hmm. Oh, great. So you also have your next book. Now, it's The Science of Teaching and Learning, a Research-Based Framework for Excellence. Has that come out already, or is it coming out very soon?
Yes. So The Science of Teaching and Learning came about. It's done. It's coming out. It will be released in the spring. So,
fantastic.
Well, as educators, we call spring, when school goes back in session. So right after Christmas break. So the spring means January. In January.
Okay. Great.
In the middle of January is when it'll be available.
Okay.
With this textbook, so I teach my graduate level classes. One of them is a teaching and learning course, and it teaches. My students are health professionals, so they're coming back to get their doctorate of science in physical therapy. So many of them own their own practices. Some of them, as they're getting older, would like to go into higher education. So it teaches them how to. I guess it begins with the motivational theories and the educational theories and how you can apply that to motivate the people that you work with, whether that's your students or your clients, or someone you're in a relationship with. It works for everybody. So it's a really great thing for all of us, to learn about. But also with my business, we would travel, my Prof Talk business, when we're traveling to different schools and offering faculty development, many times people would say, this is really great. Do you have this written down somewhere? No. You can have my slides, but as far as, I can cite the research that I'm using to prepare a lecture or to prepare, a faculty development. But as far as a lot of times people don't want to take the time to read through literature reviews and to read through, research studies. They want the reading to be a little bit easier. So that's my goal, is to take those studies and produce them in a way that makes reading kind of enjoyable, makes it, a little bit fun to read. I try to write in a way that's not, I want anyone to be able to read it, no matter what, your education. My daughter's 12 and she helps me make Kahoots and different things when I'm doing less, so she can read it and understand it. And so I write for a large audience, even though it is higher education textbook and publishing company. It's written so that anybody can learn from it.
Okay. Well, wonderful. So I do want to ask you about your company. So it looks like in the middle of teaching at Notre Dame and Andrews, you decided to also start a company called proftalk.org. So what made you want to start this company, and what is your company focused on?
Okay. My focal point of my career has been to help students, and to help them maximize their potential. And in doing so, I met another colleague at a conference who also was just, I was listening to him give his presentation, and I could tell that he just got it. He was another one where we're not necessarily as the content and the grades is not as important as, can I make you a better human? Can I make you a better someone that can learn and that is excited